Use of Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! He's got it. Big finish. Big Carter with a brilliant.
What up, everybody? It's me. I'm back. J-Mac, just me. No, I'm just kidding. Kyle Beats, Josh VG. Fellas, how's it going?
Yo, who's this homeless guy joining us?
I don't know, dude.
Almost don't recognize this face. No, glad you're back, man. Glad to be back at full strength. I'm sure the Pacers wish they were at full strength for their playoff series, but we've missed you, man. Lots to catch up on. I'm glad that schedules aligned this way, where we had to record tonight and not, Friday or Saturday. We're recording this Tuesday evening, because I was ready to overreact with some bad takes that I had saved from putting out in the public and out into the internet forever. So glad to be doing this tonight.
Boy, see, that's the difference between you and me. You were able to stop yourself over the weekend. I just let that shit stew, bro. It was just going on in my head, and I just let it go.
I was like, Anthony Davis is a no-show. I'm done with him.
If anything, Josh is more dug in on his takes than he was.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do.
He just doubles down, even though all evidence points to do otherwise.
I'm like having conversations in the shower with my shower head. I'm like, no, dude, Anthony Davis doesn't show up. He sucks, bro. He's not even a top 10 player. Like, to my shower head.
Dude, you know what's crazy is go look at his numbers for the series. They're absolutely like off the charts.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
They're absolutely incredible. I have barely, honestly, watched much of that series just because it hasn't really been a series to me.
Yeah, I haven't watched the fourth quarter of a couple games. Games 1 and Game 4 were competitive. I think it's been crazy trying to watch 4 games a day. Naturally, I end up watching like 2.5. Obviously, I'm working, kind of got that on in the background, so I'll kind of catch half of a game because I got a 12:30 schedule for Central Time, which is weird but awesome at the same time.
It's awesome as long as you're able to sit there and work at home and actually watch it. But I could see how that would be really annoying otherwise, because I would be pissed if I were missing a good amount of, the Celtics games or whatever, even though most of those were in prime time, because that was supposed to be a big series, even though, well, we'll get into that. But
yeah, I'm not really too concerned if I miss a quarter or two of the Raptors Nets. That's just, I can't wait for that to be over. But all the other games have really been, or all the other series have been really compelling.
Okay, so real quick, before we get into like the series and all that stuff, since I've been out a couple of weeks, I want to ask you guys, I mean, how impressed are you that this has all worked so well?
Unbelievably impressed. Like, this wasn't – Justin, I think you and I talked about this wasn't going to happen multiple times.
No, we absolutely did. I keep thinking that no matter what happens when I watch these games is like this. I feel like this wasn't even supposed to be happening.
Right.
I mean, what do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, y'all had a lot more pessimism. I think you kind of, swung me that direction, but then towards the end, I started feeling a little bit better about it. I've continued to be impressed, though. I mean, tests are basically to 0 now. The viewing experience has been fantastic. Somehow I'm used to the digital crowd, like it's working for me. It doesn't feel that much different from my experience, and the players don't seem to have an issue with it. I mean, obviously playing every other day keeps you pretty busy, but I mean, I think the NBA did it as good as you can. They did it better than any sport. Hockey's doing something pretty similar and taking a page out of their book with 2 different bubbles, which is interesting.
Yeah,
both in Canada, I think. But yeah, I mean, I think they hit the nail on the head. And God forbid if we ever do this again, we know the NBA will have a plan, and makes me feel like regardless of what happens, I don't want to say it can't get worse because obviously it can, but this is one of the worst things that they've been faced with, and they really. I say they didn't blink. They blinked for about 4 months along with the rest of the country. But as soon as it was acceptable, I think, to turn it on, because they were definitely being socially conscious about it, they pulled the trigger and knocked it out of the park.
I agree with you. I think that it's all worked out. Like, even guys leaving and coming back, and like we've seen like the stuff with Montrezl Harrell, all that stuff. Like, you've had a lot of guys that have had to leave and managed to come back, and they're able to manage to do it safely too, which is incredible to see. And just seeing all the prep work that they go through, where they go through and spray all the locker rooms with Clorox and all that stuff. I mean, that stuff is key to their success, but they've spent the time thinking about it and really making sure that there's an actual protocol. But the only way you could do that is in a bubble type situation. There's no way you can travel around the country and do this as a sport. You just can't.
Right.
Well, we're about to see the NFL try, but you know.
Let me ask you this though: is there any flaws that you've noticed? I think from a logistics standpoint, it's relatively flawless, unless you can make me aware of one that I'm not aware of. But from like a viewer standpoint, do you see any kind of flaws? Like, have you had any issues whatsoever?
No, I personally really haven't. The one thing I'm actually going to miss whenever this is all over with is the sideline camera that goes up and down the court. That's awesome. We won't. That
is awesome.
There's no way to have that semblance of anything like that. It's one of the most innovative things I've seen since the NFL put in the bird's eye view camera back in the day from the XFL.
Right. I think the post-game interviews are hilarious where they're 6 feet away with them just sticking a giant pole in their face.
Yeah,
it's so strange.
And nobody around. I love that part of it. But I do think we're robbed of moments like what we saw the other night with Luka, where he hit that game dagger in overtime. And that's a fan experience that is unlike any other.
Yeah. Yes. And I'd agree with that. But I don't have any. I'm not looking at this saying these things are flawed, but here's my concern. I think there's a good bit of viewership that is being lost from the political stuff that is happening. I do not think that is worth shutting up and dribbling. Here's what I will say. I think that it's 100% worth losing that viewership, but I don't think that you could go out and take a poll and have everybody be all around happy about what they've opened up to, if that makes sense. I am 100% for it, but I don't think that everybody is.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's just putting it out. I think there's camps that obviously are not watching it for that reason. There's camps that are watching it and loving the social justice. There's people that are watching it just because they love basketball. I mean, I think there's a lot of different camps, and you can fall into any of them. I mean, your opinion's your opinion as long as it's not malicious. You know, that's my belief. And you know, I love the social justice movement, and I think they're going about it in a really productive way. But I'm not going to sit here on a soapbox. At the end of the day, I'm a basketball lover, and that's why I'm watching this. But I do think that is an important message, and I think they're going about it in the right way. And
if they truly believe in this stuff, which they do, they need to not stop,
not back down. Yeah, don't let the ratings came out, they're lower than we expected. Don't take Black Lives Matter off the court. Don't start making changes, because then that shows that you're backing down from that stance, which I don't think they will. I think they'll
exactly. And even I'll even take it a step further. You can't get bored with it, because like I'm in leadership, and I know that the second that people start to get sick of what you're saying because you repeat it so much is the second that they've actually it's been ingrained in them, and they start to actually live it and learn it.
It's a great point.
So they need to not get bored. They need to not stop shoving it down people's throats. If they truly believe in it and they want to make a difference, that needs to happen.
Can I would like to bring up the other side of this, and really just for conversation's sake, and something that I've actually thought about, which I worry about with all this, is that by putting, I agree with everything you guys said. Like, I think they're doing it for the right reasons. They're using their platform. They're doing it the right way. No problem with that. I think that's the best way that this could be handled, because it's putting it right in front of people's faces. My concern with that is just that you put it in front of people's faces and it just starts to get used to. It's just like ads on a uniform. You get used to it. It just becomes a part of the court that you don't even think about anymore. That's my only concern about it. And so I don't know how, you have to make sure you're taking the time to keep it front of mind in the right ways while supplementing it with that kind of thing, if that makes sense.
I mean, to Josh's point, you have to continue to execute on what's happening in front of you, but be innovative for what's going to happen down the road. And I think that's a fine line and a really challenging thing to do. But I think the likes of Adam Silver, LeBron James, Chris Paul are going to be capable of pulling that off. We'll see. I do think that is a fair concern that I haven't actually thought about until you guys just brought it up, and that's why we have these conversations. Is that could become, even though I hope it doesn't, that could be kind of stale material after a while, where it's like, yeah, we know it's there, but it's not resonating with us that the change is occurring. It's just something we get used to seeing, like an ad.
So then I think well, and I was just going to say to cap that off too, I think the real challenge ends up being that you make this a bubble thing, like the Black Lives Matter and all, and that make that a special thing. But then you've got to figure out what the next thing you can do.
Everyone goes home next season, and it's just not a thing anymore. Right. I think it needs to be on every NBA court. I think they have to take it there,
or figure out what that next thing is that's going to matter.
And I'll put on my social psychologist hats. I have many hats. My social psychologist hat is
a lot of hats.
more of a beanie with a propeller on it. But there's a theory called Mears effect, and it's what drives advertising. Mears effect essentially says that the more that you are familiar with something, the more comfortable you are with it. Like, nobody watches TV and watches a Charmin Ultra commercial and goes, "Oh, I better go wipe my ass," right? Nobody does that. The fact that they have Charmin in front of them and they're inundated with it, they become more compliant towards it. That's a bad word, but hear me out here. They become more associated with it, more familiar with it, and therefore, whenever they go to Walmart to pick up the toilet paper, they look at Nature's Own toilet paper and just making stuff up, or Charmin, and they go, "Well, I've heard of Charmin before. That makes sense," and they become comfortable with it. So I think that there is a little bit of a risk of this possibly going into we're just bored with it. It's just there. But I think what is going to be more prevalent is the Mears effect and just making sure that it's in front of people so they can be comfortable with it.
Can we talk about the fact that you used granola bar as a toilet paper brand in that? We talk about that.
I'm glad that's what you took away from that. That was my hope, actually.
No, you're 100% correct, though. It has to be handled the right way in that sense.
Yeah. So yeah. I have more of a fear of this bubble being over and we start next season and nobody has it. You can't stop. You have to keep going.
Yeah.
But then you have to come up with an exit strategy. So I don't know.
You have to find something that keeps it actually fresh, that doesn't just let it blend in. That's kind of my point.
Okay.
You just don't want it to just become part of what you see every day on the court. So
yeah.
I mean, from a viewing experience, I mean, any other notes that you guys have liked, disliked? I mean, I think the digital fans is a little bit weird. It almost feels like the technology is just like slightly not there yet, almost, but very close kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when you're in a Zoom conference and somebody has a fake background and you can you can see 93% of them, but the edges are a little blurry. Like, that's exactly what it is. I'm glad I could see little Wayne taking rips though in the middle of the Laker game. That was very enjoyable.
Yeah.
That was incredible. I saw that and I clipped it to tweet out, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be everywhere here in 2 seconds." And then, 10 minutes later, Kyle sent it to me, and I was like, "Yeah,
already made it." Dude, before we talk about the series, can we just quickly break down this 76ers fiasco that I think I don't want to say we're in the forefront of, but we're definitely early adopters of. We need to get Brett Brown out of there, and we have to make a decision on these superstars.
Agreed.
I mean, really zooming out on it, it's a shame that the process went like this, but the process was really before they made that Tobias Harris trade. That was kind of where where things went off the rails a little bit, and where you started to get away from the homegrown thing that you built.
The trade was bad, and sometimes you just take your losses and move on, but they paid him 5 for 180, and they signed up for 5 more years with Tobias Harris when they really shouldn't have. You couple that with the Al Horford contract, which you're not going to move either of those contracts unless you give away Embiid or Simmons at a discount. And I think you kind of have to eat those contracts and move on. And the hard part is I would keep Simmons. I know Josh is getting a little chubbed up now. I would keep Simmons because I actually think he gives a shit more about basketball, and he's a better defender. And he's going to play more games. He's more well-conditioned. He's not more talented overall, I don't think. But I think you can sell Embiid. I think you can sell Embiid for way more.
I think that every single GM in the league knows how great Simmons is. The dude, we've heard multiple times Stan Van Gundy say he believes that Simmons is the best defender in the league, and I think that all of us talked about it in our text message thread. But Simmons is
I'm not there yet.
I said Simmons.
He's not
right?
the best defender.
He does. There's not a single thing that he is not an 8 of 10 on. So if you take Giannis, he's probably not as good of a ball defender as Simmons, but he's a better help defender. He's a better rebounder. If you take Kawhi, he's a better on-ball defender than Simmons, but he's not as good as a help defender. He's not as good as a rim protector. Simmons does everything so well. He's maybe the only person in the league that can switch 1 through 5, and GMs know this stuff. The average NBA watcher doesn't know that stuff and doesn't see that. GMs know what Simmons is worth, and I think that you could probably get just as much for Simmons on the open market as you can for Embiid. My thing with Brett Brown, to kind of skip around here, is we have never seen a player perform up to what they should perform under Brett Brown. Never. Jimmy Butler was the only one, actually.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. Jimmy Butler's going to perform everywhere. You can look back and say Brett Brown had 350 win seasons in a row. He's a good coach. But those teams, like Ben Simmons isn't as good as he should be. Embiid can't stay on the court, and when he does stay on the court, you don't know what Embiid you're getting. You could get one that had ice cream the night before and drops 8 points in a playoff game and 4 rebounds. You could Tobias Harris was a 50-40-90 guy at the Clippers, or damn near it. He was like 50-40-88 or something stupid like that. Jimmy Butler, it was a superstar on the Chicago Bulls. Then he went to the Timberwolves and made enemies there, and then he went to the Sixers and carried their team while the rest of them struggled. Al Horford sucks now. Like Brett Brown, Josh Richardson was one of the best D&3 guys in the league last year at Miami, and he sucks now. Brett Brown there's not a single player on any of his teams that have performed up to their standards or to their potential. Not one. And that's why you got to get rid of him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And they made the right call by getting rid of him for sure. And we knew even last year that we were on the precipice of this. This was definitely the last year of him, almost no matter what happens, anything short of like a finals appearance was pretty much the.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked they brought him back this year.
I kind of was too, but you almost had to out of respect alone, just because he had seen it through that far.
Yeah, he'd been through all the terrible seasons, but I think a new coach in there is going to help them, but I think they have to figure out the superstar situation first.
So here's the thing. Some coaches going to walk in. So first of all, payroll situation, they're like $20 million over the cap for the next 3 years going forward. So
they're in the 130 to 140 range every year the next 3 years, mainly because of the Horford and Tobias Harris deal.
And those are two of the top 5 most immovable contracts in the NBA. I mean, they're aside from like the John Wall deal, stuff like that, like those are immovable contracts. You can't
John Wall's rough, but it's up there. Those are some of the worst. Those are some of the worst deals. Kevin Love is bad. Andre Drummond is bad. Yeah. But no, I agree. You can't move those unless you're just dumping that with Simmons or Embiid and taking a lot less back than you should. I think you're probably better off, unfortunately, just keeping those guys and moving one of those assets.
But that's the thing is, so you got Joel Embiid, who you don't never know what guy's going to show up. To what Josh said, like you've got a guy who's 24 minutes into a playoff series is exhausted, tired looking, and it's like, what are we doing here? And like Simmons said this, I think, on his show, like by the time that the guy gets to be around Embiid's age, he kind of is who he's going to be. He's not really going to change. Like Andrew Bynum wasn't really going to grow.
Not as an athlete, but as a guy, like as an adult. You're 25. You don't give a shit about your $120 million deal. You may never give a shit about that deal.
Correct. And I think that's a very valid look at that. It's like that I mean, you guys know me, like that guy would be out of my gym immediately.
Yeah, you are not a half motor, half ass kind of guy.
Not at all.
I'd say I'll sign that. I'll sign up for the talent, but on this one, it's too glaring. Like on this one, because Simmons is a little too beta, I think, to be a clear number one on a championship team. I think he can be a clear number one on a good team or a number 2 on a championship team, but I don't question his love for the game of basketball or his desire to win. I do question his, ability to work on his jump shot in the offseason. But other than that, I think there's a lot less question marks with him health-wise too, right? Like take out the love of the game. Like that dude's body, Josh mentioned it, is arguably like the most prototypical body for today's NBA. Embiid is great and dominant and massive, but with somebody that's going to not work that hard on conditioning, where's he going to be at 31, And that's the challenge.
And so we came to a point where Brett Brown had definitely lost the team. Like, I mean, it became very apparent that like he was making adjustments and they just weren't working and they didn't know what to do. They rejected. The problem is that the right option, and we actually talked about this way earlier in the season about how the better option is to figure out how to break that team up in some way, shape, or form. Trade one of those guys. You probably do make your basketball team worse in the course of things, so it is a hard sell. But the thing is, you're going to have some coach that's going to come in here. I don't know who that's going to be quite yet. It's going to be like Jason Kidd. It's going to be like Ty Lue, somebody like that who's going to try to
be a splash name.
They're targeting Ty Lue.
They're going to try to sell them on that they can make those pieces work. And I don't know that those pieces are going to work. And that's the problem.
Yeah, and everybody's already talking about what's been surprising to me is everybody's talking about trading Embiid, which that's I mean, you guys know me, like I'm still buying
that's
Simmons.
where you're at for sure.
Yeah, I would trade Embiid.
You expect the media to be on Embiid's side and trade Simmons because he can't shoot and things of that nature. Yeah, that was surprising to me too. But I think this playoff series was like the icing on the cake. Because we've all seen Embiid be lackadaisical at times, but this last one was just you can't ignore it, man. And I know Brown had lost the team. You can, the comments with Josh Richardson saying, "Hey, there needs to be more accountability," and Embiid saying, "Hey, I'm not the GM. I'm not making these decisions." Like it's just like a coach that has his locker room under control. Like that's not coming out of the Spurs locker room. That's not coming out of the Mavs or the Warriors locker room. Like he just doesn't have control of the team. It's going to be challenging for Ty Lue to do that.
Love the ricochet shot that was taken at Elton Brand, though. That's pretty great.
Elton Brand is probably out of there, dude. There's been because he's making all these decisions, right?
Right.
And like, you swung and missed with Horford. You swung and missed with Harris. You picked Markelle Fultz over. I don't even want to go over it, but Donovan Mitchell was in that draft. I mean, a lot of dudes, and it's like that's tough.
Dude, the Elton Brand signing was so funny to me because, like, if you look back at Philly's draft picks, it was Ben Simmons, big man who gets hurt. Embiid, big man who gets hurt. Nerlens Noel, big man who gets hurt. And then they signed Elton Brand, a big
Simmons,
man. Okafor as well. Yeah. That's four big men that got hurt. And then you signed Elton Brand, a big man who also had injury problems whenever he played in the league as your GM. It just seemed really funny to me. But
fitting, right?
Yeah, I agree that I think that there should be some pressure on him. You have two players that could have been top 5 players from the moment that you drafted them, and you're about to have to blow this up.
He didn't draft them though. I mean, he's.
No, I mean you had those guys on your team though. Is what I mean. Yeah. And they had the potential. Both of them have the potential to be top 5 players in the league, and you're gonna have to blow it up because of the bad signings that you did and because of the coach that you kept around for a little bit too long.
It's tough. It's a tough look, that's for sure. It's a tough sell. But Ty Lue, to Kyle's point, is not going to be able to make those pieces work. I just don't believe in that.
You might try to sell him on that, though. I get that, but I definitely don't think those guys will both be on the roster next season. I think they will try at the beginning of the season, though.
Wait, so clarify that. So
I think they will try to run it back. I think they will try to run it back with Simmons and Embiid. You can't get rid of Horford or Harris. I mean, the Richardson contract's movable, but they're not going to move him. I think they try to run it back. I don't think they make it through that season, though.
Okay, yeah. So like
if they're 20-21 at the All-Star break or near the All-Star break, they're gonna make some trades. And I'm curious to think. So Justin, are you with us that you would keep Simmons, or are you leaning towards Embiid?
Oh, I would keep Simmons, and I'm not even the biggest Simmons supporter in the world.
Same. That's where I'm at.
Jump shot, but what I see, the product that I see at Embiid is not what I'm looking for out of a guy his size and of his athletic ability. He's an incredible player that's lazy, and that pisses me off.
Embiid, for me, Embiid would be a hard sell to put him in my top 10 at this point.
Yeah, talent-wise, it's no question, but just as a player, top 10 player, probably not.
You have the top Serpentine, like fantasy draft, you have top 10 players to build your franchise around. I don't know if Embiid goes in the top 10.
For sure, no way. Yeah. Not with the young talent in today's league and the question marks with him. Let me ask you guys this then. As Embiid as an asset then, if we're all in agreement to keep Simmons, what does that look like? What do you think you can get back for him? Because I think you can get a superstar or a star and a pick.
I would try to get Devin Booker.
Does that help the Suns, though? Are they going to run Ayton and Embiid out there?
No.
Dude, the Suns don't know what the hell they're doing. You can ship them off Nerlens Noel for Devin Booker. I think the Suns see a shiny asset and they go, we need that guy.
I just took him for Bradley Beal straight up.
So Josh is just counting on the Suns to be stupid. I love that take.
Yeah.
Love
It might be the most sure thing in the NBA, actually.
Just throwing some cash considerations, and Sarver's pulling the trigger. I like Bradley Beal and I think it improves both franchises.
Yo, if Houston loses to OKC, you think they don't blow that up? You think they don't trade Harden for Embiid? Harden for Embiid and maybe Matisse
trading Harden for Embiid, bro. He's missed 11 games in 5 years. You're not trading. Daryl Moore is not trading Harden for Embiid.
Harden for Embiid and Matisse Thybulle.
Take him.
Who is a premier defender, bro.
He's an elite defender. He cannot score. I mean, if I'm Philly, I'd do that all day. If you give me James Harden and Ben Simmons, I'm feeling pretty good in the East.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. That'll be our homework for next week. Let's draw up some.
I did my homework, fellas. Bradley Beal is a good one, and the money works.
Okay, I didn't realize you guys talked about this last time. Okay, the money.
No. I didn't talk about it. I was just ahead of the game.
Yeah, I just brought it up because I looked at it before we go. So Bradley Beal makes slightly more, but it's within that 75%. But you could throw in another contract. I just think, like, for the Wizards, now they're like, okay, we have a marquee talent. It's our job to turn this guy into our franchise player. You have John Wall. That could be some nice pick and roll action. John Wall's not quite Ben Simmons, where he's, I don't think he's.
John Wall is a worse version of Ben Simmons.
He's a shorter version of Ben Simmons. He's a slightly better shooter. Percentages may not say so, but my eyes tell me so.
Yeah, at least he's taking a three.
He'll take the shot, right? So I don't think that's a terrible trade for them, and I think Bradley Beal's unhappy. But at the end of the day, they probably will try to run Beal and Wall back one more time based on how much money they've sunk into that combo. It obviously helps Philly, though. If you can have Ben Simmons bringing up the ball, and now you have Tobias Harris, you're asking him to be your clear third option. You have Bradley Beal, who doesn't have to create. He scored 30 points a game this year, creating every shot because his team sucks.
Dude, he
can come
was second in the league. Yeah, he was second in the league in scoring, and he's increased his scoring every year for the last 3 years.
And every year since he's been in the league, I think.
Jeez, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, like 6 or 7 years in a row. And he is, I don't want to say an elite perimeter defender, but he's tier 2. Like, he's a very good perimeter defender.
I might put him in tier 1, and my only concern is his size. But yeah, I feel you, Kyle.
1-2 probably, maybe a small 3, depending on the lineup. But you have him and Thybulle out on the wings. I just think that makes a lot of sense for that team.
Yeah. The bigs are the questions there. You would have to go to true small ball and have Horford play the 5, which we know that Horford doesn't want to play the 5 because he's old and he doesn't want to bang anymore. But so you'd have to fill that. But that's if you get Beal, that's worth it, dude. That's worth filling that 5.
Let me throw one more trade at you. Gordon Hayward, Daniel Tice, and a first-round pick.
I'm not taking any more risks if I'm the Sixers.
I guess that's a good point.
We're done with risks. We're going like
I'm just trying to work and beat onto the Celtics with Tatum and Brown because that's a ring.
Come on, Josh, don't be a bitch.
Yeah, that's fair. Who's this conservative guy? Let's draft 4 centers in a row. What could go wrong?
I need things to keep going exactly as they've been going in Philly because watching my team absolutely embarrass them was just fantastic. I'll tell you.
That was ugly. That was
okay. Last hypothetical trade. I like this one a lot too. Money will work out next year when this guy's $24.5 million contract kicks in. Embiid's at 31. Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, and a lottery pick from this year's not that strong draft for Embiid. I think that improves both teams.
I would also include sending Elton Brand to be their GM and giving me a bunch of favors later on.
While I do think that improves the Sixers, I think that they would be heavily underselling Embiid, and they could get more.
I think so too.
Because Marvin Bagley, like I've been high on Marvin Bagley since the moment that he was drafted, since the moment that I saw him play in college. But I think that you can get more. I think that you can get more. But
you're getting Buddy Hield. You're getting a elite perimeter shooter, I would say, and a decent defender.
Yeah, Buddy Hield took a step back this year.
He only took a step back because they added Bogdanovich to that team, and it just threw it off.
They shouldn't have, That was a very
I think, I don't know. Maybe you're right. What if it was a first-round pick from next year's draft, which is you probably haven't looked that far forwards, but next year's draft is fucking loaded. There's probably 10 dudes that have star potential, and I mean, the odds that Sacramento is one of the 10 worst teams in the NBA is very strong.
I don't with the assets that Simmons is. I think that you can get something real for Joel Embiid right now, and I want to try
star for star, like give me Bradley Beal, give me Devin Booker.
Yeah. Maybe even a lower tier star with more pieces around them, because
I could do these three nickels for a quarter trade all day. I got too many of them. So the star for star is probably the way that ends up going. Realistically,
they're going to run it back, dude. They're not going to blow this thing up. They're going to blame Brett Brown for this, and they're going to try to run it back and see if it can work again. It's not going to work. It's going to be great.
The East is too good. The East is not the 70s where LeBron could take that Cavs team to the finals. Like, the East is not quite as good as the West now, because the West is just so loaded, but the East is so much better than it was 3 years ago.
It's harder to be ahead in the East. It's a lot more top heavy than it's been in a long time.
Yeah. So let me float as the antithesis to this argument. Let me float this by you. In the playoffs this year, we feel like Embiid got run off the court, but he actually averaged 30,
11 or something.
30, 12, and 1.3 blocks on 18 shots a game. Now, he only shot 45% from the field, and that's abysmal if you're a big. And the reason why was because he was not trying to stick his ass in the post.
This is going to bring Kyle right back to football season, but all of that said, 4 straight losses in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So
he did. And what I'm saying is that an argument for trading Simmons instead of Embiid? Those stats that he put up, because those are crazy stats. Dude shot 14 free throws a game, and really, like,
could I give you one other stat, Josh?
Yeah.
Can we do first half or second half field goal percentage?
Oh boy.
Yes, let me hear it. I don't know this.
He's a cherry.
It's 60-29. He shot 29% in the second half. He averaged 8.8 rebounds a game in the first half, and under 4 rebounds a game or a half in the second half.
Yeah, I'm taking Tobias Harris over Joel Embiid at this point.
After that, okay,
but yeah, that's a joke, obviously. But do you know why that is? It's because he just gets tired, dude. The guy's just out of shape.
He's just out of shape.
He's cotton candy for dinner. What do you expect?
Yeah, exactly. And also, I saw way too much of him getting his ass kicked by Daniel Tice, who he outweighs by 40 pounds on the post. Like, that's not okay. And that's why he only shot 45% from the field, is because he's out there shooting threes and trying to spread the floor whenever you have Shaq's body.
Yeah.
Get in the post.
All right, so let's finish that out with. I mean, did you guys have any notes on the Celtics? I mean, the Celtics look fucking fantastic, and you know what? I really got to hand it to Brett Brown, because he allowed Kemba to just go out there and take like 70 shots and really just get his rhythm back and just go out there and destroy everybody.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't. Yeah, I mean, and Kemba didn't play, so it's nice to let him get some shots up. He's definitely not right. The Gordon Hayward thing is tough. I'm just going to not assume he's going to be there, right? Like, I'm just looking at Tatum and Brown got to do this. Their matchup against Toronto, forward looking to even what some of these other matchups could be, Houston and LA possibly. I'm just so intrigued by that Boston-Toronto series. I think that's a fantastic series, because I know Josh probably isn't here yet, but Tatum is elevating. Like, Tatum is a star, an all-star transitioning to a superstar. And Jaylen Brown is, I think, comfortable being that number 2 and really damn good at it. He is very Scottie Pippen-esque to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm there on Tatum. I think I'm there.
Yeah, he's pretty impressive. He had a really crucial block against Embiid in one of the stretches in the last minute of a game, which just shows me a lot for a 6'9" 2 guard, basically. And he can defend multiple positions. I just love his game. I think I actually – I put a little money on them to come out of the East as a flyer at plus 700, I think, and I feel really good about that based on how they played. Not going to put too much stock into the sweep, because I think that Philly situation is just such a mess. But you can't put too much stock in Toronto at the same time. I mean, that's the series we'll probably talk the least about, right? I mean, the Nets are just not playing. They don't have KD. They don't have Kyrie. They don't have Spencer Dinwiddie. It's being led by Karis LeVert. Like, I expect you to beat that team pretty handily. So I think they're going to present – Boston's going to present Toronto with some problems, and I think a lot of people are just having defensive gasms about the way Toronto plays team defense, and I'm not there because I haven't seen them stop Tatum. I've seen them stop Karis LeVert.
Yeah.
Can I go the antithesis of that and say this is crazy? This is my first time in 2 years that I've had a favorite that's not the Bucks, and it's Toronto for me.
Wow.
God almighty. I had them last year. So I will say I can convince myself on any given night that Milwaukee, Miami, Boston, or Toronto could win the East. I'm really fucking impressed with Miami, dude.
I'll give you 3 of those. I still have I think that Miami played amazingly, but I still have the
We'll
same
have a
concern.
friendly wager. I think they take that series to 6 or 7, bare minimum.
I thought you were going to say you think they take the series. I was like, yeah, give me whatever. Tell me the odds on that.
That's tough. You're gonna have to give me some odds there.
Yeah. I think that Harrow is about to say, I don't have TJ McConnell guarding me. I have Chris Middleton guarding me, and it's about to not get what
Chris Middleton is not guarding Tyler Harrow. Who's going to guard Jimmy Butler?
I mean, first off, there's Eric Bledsoe's an All-NBA defender. He got All-NBA first team last year, and then you got Brook Lopez, who's like top 10 in the league in shot blocking. And then you got Giannis, who's who's just won defensive MVP, defensive player of the year, and then Chris Middleton's All-NBA defense last year as well. That team is stacked, dude. It doesn't matter.
Chris Middleton will be guarding Jimmy Butler is my point. So I think
it doesn't matter.
Harrow is who can because you have George Hill who's long. Yeah, it's a tough defense. It's a tough, but it's not like the Pacers are just a rollover defense either.
No, but it's the difference between going from I mean the Pacers have a great defense, but a lot of that was based upon the fact that Sabonis is so great defensively, and he wasn't in there. And Victor Oladipo is not playing like himself, but there's a giant step between the Pacers defense and the Bucks defense. And I think that that's going to pressure those young guys because they've never seen it. They'll also, dude, playing 4 games against Giannis is a beatdown, bro. Because he doesn't you can build a wall against him and he'll just run through you. And that starts those guys weigh 200 pounds, those 2 white guards. It's just going to, it's gonna be tough. I don't
think Tyler Harrow weighs more than 175 pounds, but
I don't see those guys taking it past 5.
I don't like that take at all.
I'll give you 6. I'll give you 6, but they're definitely not taking a 7.
I want to hear J-Max take here in a second, but my Middleton stat for you, because you know where I stand on Middleton, is a number 2. I think he's a 3, or a low end 2. And you look at last year's Eastern Conference Finals in round 2. They played 12 games. He had under 10 points in 5.
Wow.
That's fucking terrible.
He is significantly better this year than he was last year. And I will say that we obviously have the playoffs.
The numbers don't say that. Are you just saying eye test? You feel that way?
No. He was almost 50, 40, 90 on 20 points per game.
The percentages were good, but but the points and rebounds and assists and all that were the exact same.
I mean, he had 20 points per game. 50, 40, 90 on 20. When's the last time that happened, Dirk?
I can't do a Dirk take from you tonight.
No.
I can't. You're gonna have Chris
Actually,
Middleton
the last time that happened
with your top 30 list.
The last time that happened was KD.
Okay.
I'm not putting him in the same.
Where are you at on this, J-Mac? Where are you at on Milwaukee, Miami? Because I mean, I think Milwaukee's still they're not through the first round, but I think we assume they're going to win by 20 points in Game 5.
Definitely. I honestly just don't know if Miami's quite there yet. I think they're really, really close. I think ultimately the defensive matchups are going to get the best of them, and I don't know how they're going to really contain Giannis in that case if it came down to that. I don't know how you would do that.
I think a Bam Jimmy combination is not the worst thing you can throw at him. Jimmy's obviously undersized and can't guard him on the block. I think the X factor is Bam because the obvious X factor is their young shooters, Harrow, Robinson, and Nunn, who just came back, got through COVID, got through quarantine. Definitely not conditioned, will be on a minutes restriction. The dude averaged 15 points a game as a rookie off the bench. That's the obvious X factor that those 3 rookies got to step up. But I think the X factor is how physical can Bam be with Giannis.
I don't think that any player in the league has a chance at being physical enough with Giannis to stop him. I think that, and I've been saying this since last year.
Player,
I mean, that's what I just said. No player. There's not a single player in the league that can guard Giannis.
Anthony Davis can be physical with Giannis.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not enough.
And even last year, the only team that could beat him, the only player that could guard him was 3 players. 3 players on the Raptors. So I don't think that the Heat have the bodies to throw at him. Like Bam can get out there and guard him. Giannis will still average 30 and 15.
Yeah,
They don't have the third player that can come out there.
Eric Bledsoe and Chris Middleton go 2 for 27 shooting.
That's a very real possibility. But I just don't like Giannis is gonna feast on that team. They don't have the third body.
I'm not worried about Giannis. I'm worried about that team. I think that's fair based on what we've seen out of them in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean, they lost one game. And then they blew them out 3 other games. And Toronto lost to the same team last year.
Yeah, Magic gave them their best shot. It's a blue-collar team. I don't put any stock in that win. I'm not concerned about that. I'm talking about last year when they went up 2-0 and shit the bed 4 games in a row in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's a problem.
Fair. And I am
basically the same.
I'm scared for them against Toronto because I think Nick Nurse is the best coach in the East by far. Well, not by far because Spoelstra's in Miami, but I don't think that Miami has what the personnel that they need to throw at him.
No, not quite. I agree. I don't think they're going to win the series, but I think it goes 6 or 7. So I think I'm just a little higher on Miami than you guys are. I know they beat up on a beaten down Indiana team.
I think
J-Mac, go ahead. Josh.
I think more so you're a little bit lower on Milwaukee than we are. Like I'm high on Miami. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. I just don't think
the gap we see in the team is not as large. However, you want to slice it. J-Mac, where are you at with your Celtics? I'm going to round off the East here. How are you feeling? I guess with the win over the series, it's kind of like, whatever. I don't know what I learned there. Yeah. Other than Gordon Hayward's not going to stay healthy. But how do you feel going against Toronto?
So that's more of a fair matchup for sure. I think that's going to show us a lot more of what both those teams are made of. I'm actually not as concerned about Toronto as maybe most people would feel. I could see the Celtics finishing that in like 6 games.
Yeah, I think the Celtics win that series, and unless Pascal Siakam just turns into like a top 7 player, which he has that ceiling to me, and I need to see that from him because Van Vliet and Kyle Lowry, I think, will be shut down is a harsh term, but they will be greatly restricted in this series with Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown guarding them.
Absolutely,
that's who's going to guard them. Like they can throw. Smart is going to be on one of the two. Maybe it depends on the lineup they're running out there. If they're rolling really small, you probably have to put Jaylen on a bigger guy, like an OG or a Pascal. But I like Jaylen Brown and Tatum's body at Pascal. They're going to struggle on the boards and inside as they did against Philly, but they still made it work. I just trust them to outscore because I think Kyle Lowry and Van Vliet will be well below their averages.
I can see where you say that with the defense, but Van Vliet averaged 21 points per game on a 70 effective field goal percentage. That means that
series. That's not for the season, right?
That's for the playoffs. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He shot
season though
from the 3-point line, and 52% from the field.
Yeah.
So he's playing out of his mind, dude. And that guy, Dallas needs to go get that guy. They need to get that guy next year.
I like that take. Yeah. So I've kind of thought about it. Well, never mind. We'll get to it. Here's the thing. Here's the reality of it, though, Josh. Those stats are fantastic. He did average almost 18 points a game this year. He shot 41% from the field this year. So, and he had a 16 PER. When you put Marcus Smart on him, those numbers get diminished. I'm not as concerned. The argument for Toronto here is, I think, coaching slightly. I think I'm there with you. I think Brad Stevens is really good, though. So it's not like a massive coaching discrepancy, but I think it is slightly better from what we've seen from their resumes in the pros this far. Toronto's depth is better. That's their argument, right? Like they have a legit 8 to 9 man rotation where Boston really has like 7 and Gordon Hayward's hurt. So they really got like 6 guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Toronto has the best rotation in the league.
I'd have to think about that. I think the Clippers' ceiling as a rotation is really good, but where they're at right now is not there.
Yeah, the Clippers have those 2 scorers, but other than that, like and I guess you could say that their top 7 is better than the Raptors' top 10. But dude, OG Anunoby, like Norman Powell should be in the race for 6th man of the year. I don't know why he wasn't.
And then you got Serge, you got Gasol, like you got bodies. Like the team is deep. I don't know if I don't know. I can't say I don't trust them. They won the championship last year. I just don't feel like they're going to outscore the Celtics in this series. So I'm leaning towards Celtics in 6 or 7.
And then you have Stanley Johnson and Rondé Hollis Jefferson, both fantastic, big-bodied, strong defenders coming off the bench too. Like that team might be the deepest team that I've seen in a long time. But
you picking them to win that series?
Yeah, I got them in 6.
Every single thing that I hear right now pretty much is pretty much the same thing that I heard about the Sixers going into the year. They're so big, the Celtics are never going to be able to compete against them, and that fell apart on both ends of it. So I'm not too worried about that as far as how this series goes. I think Boston easily wins it in 6. All right, let's get on to the West.
Okay. So let's just do it. This Dallas Clippers series is fucking awesome. Now it's 2-2 going into tonight's game. Looks like it's going to be 3-2 after this. But
I can
100% guarantee you that it will be 3-2 after this.
Yeah. We were down about this much last game. But the Mavs have played so much better than I anticipated from the Porzingis ejection in game 1, which was a soft-ass ejection, even though it's by the rules. To me, that was bullshit. I can't say they were going to win that game, but it was a 50-50 split. They were up 8, and they had a chance to win that game. I think they probably lose this series in 6 or 7, and that's fine. This is great experience for them. This is a huge confidence builder. You can see it in their body language, their chemistry. They're a real fucking team. They operate as a team, even though it's one superstar and a bunch of role players right now because KP's out. Although it looks like if he needs to be there for game 6, he's going to push it. I think you try to be hesitant with him. Luka is just elevated to where I'm ready to go there and say he has top 10 all-time talent. I'm not saying he's going to end up being top 10. If he plays for 12 to 14 years, though, he will. His talent is there. I thought you would think this is crazy, Josh. LeBron's top 10. You look at other active players that have the ability to be top 10 players of all time. Kawhi, KD, Steph, Giannis. I think those are really the only ones. Harden, probably not. KD, Kawhi, Steph, Giannis. Those are the other guys. I put Luka over all of them as far as likelihood to be top 10 all time. As crazy as that sounds. Easy. I mean, it's not even close for me. I think he's going to win more rings. He just makes dudes around him better. Giannis is a more talented overall player. Luka's a more talented offensive player, and he makes those around him better. And I think he's the most infectious player. He's Magic personality, MJ level fucking gamer, and LeBron level IQ, and he's big and he's 21.
21 years old. It's instinct is all you're seeing. Pure instinct. It's one of the most unreal things I've seen that I can ever really remember. It's different than anything I've ever seen.
If it weren't for this playoff series, I would say you're crazy, but I don't hate it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I don't hate it.
I mean, the progression has been incredible if you look at what he did.
Yeah. I'm just not there yet. I will say this. I think that Giannis and Luka are going to battle each other for the next 10 years, and they're going to be the 2 best players in the league for the next 10 years.
Me too. And it was kind of like that for about 7 years. I don't know about 10, maybe 6 or 7. It was like that for 6 or 7 years with Kobe and LeBron, even though the age discrepancy between Luka and Giannis is 3 or 4, where Kobe and LeBron was 6 or 7. And I think Jason Tatum's going to be D Wade. I think he's going to be the third guy, the unbelievable talent that's just not clearly in that tier, but he's right there at the tier below. I think it's going to be him. It's going to be Booker and a lot of these other guys. But Giannis and Luka just have something. Those two have something that we haven't seen since LeBron.
Yeah, agreed.
Maybe KD. I don't want to take too much away from him. We forget he's there. But as far as the series go, I just think the Clippers are going to get it done. They're showing tonight, obviously, when Paul George plays well, 18 points in 16 minutes, pretty good. When he plays well, the Mavericks have 0 chance. The Mavericks have been in this because he's been Pandemic P, and he's been dude. Terrible. These are his stats going into tonight's game: 15.3 points per game on 31 minutes a game, 29% from the field, 22 from the 3-point line.
I think his official nickname is Planned Parenthood, Paul. I think is the new official nickname.
And
he's horrendous.
We lost it. No, but that is terrible. And can you be? I consider Paul George a top 12 guy. Like, I don't know if you can be. I can't consider Embiid top 12. I can't consider Jokic after his performance. I got like top 8 guys in my top 12 now. I'm just dropping dudes left and right.
Dude, that's how I feel. Before this season, I was like, I got 20 guys in my top 10, and now I have nobody. So he's the first player since Kuzi in 1960 to have 3 games in a row where he shot under 25%.
Wow.
I love that Josh found a way to just shit on old school basketball.
Yeah, what the fuck? And he probably
Isn't that horrific, dude? That's horrendous.
And Josh probably represented old school basketball more so in our top 30 than any of us all together. So that's unbelievable.
I thought you were going to say in my game. I was like, yeah, you've been watching me lately, haven't you? Lots of up and unders.
Where are you at? Because I know Dallas is your adopted second team, J-Mac, to the Celtics. Yeah. You got to be feeling – end of the day, like, we're already ahead of schedule. I didn't think we'd make the playoffs this year. Yeah. Me and you were season ticket holders for some terrible seasons.
So
you got to just feel great about where you stand. I know you're not – we'll leave your season ticket situation alone, but I know you're you're really happy about where they stand. I think it's the over-under. If they retain KP and Luka without injury, I think the over-under for championships is 2.5.
I don't disagree with that, and I probably think that they go over that. But I'll say this, man, like I have this weird feeling. I texted this to you guys earlier. I have a feeling that by year 3 of this KP Max deal, the Mavericks are going to hate that deal, and I'm terrified about that guy's knees. I really am. I'm not worried about whether he can make it work and whether him and Luka will be fine together. We saw the other night they look great together. It's down to health in that matter. And for a matter of fact, it's going to come down to health for Luka too. That's the only thing that could really hold that dude back at this point. They're on the precipice of something really good, but they're in a really precipitous place with their cap. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle this going forward. It really is. But they're known for finding diamond in the rough talent that they tend to make better than any other team is able to.
So that's where my head is at because – I'm sitting here every night, texting with my buddy who's a diehard Mavs fan about, hey, if they just get this guy or that guy after 2021 when they have the max deal, likelihood is they're not going to get Giannis. They're not going to get Bradley Beal. They're not going to get these marquee guys because they never have. Like Harrison Barnes is their best fucking sign in a decade, and it's like, but I think they're in a way better situation with way more to offer now, and I think they could attract Giannis, and I think because of the Euro connection and his desire to win, they'll be on the short list. I can't, in my heart of hearts, tell myself, like, yeah, we're going to get Giannis. We're going to get Bradley Beal. We're going to get Devin Booker, right? So
it may not matter.
But that's to my point, and it all ties back to your health. So I'm trying to bring this full circle. KP's health scares me more than Luka's. I think Luka, they're saying, kind of has the similar Steph ankle build, but you can fix that with surgery now. So if he just gets a surgery in this offseason, it's a short offseason. You miss 20 games next year. That's fine because look at what happened to Steph's ankle health after that, right?
Right.
And with KP, that's a bigger concern because he's 7'3", he's got bad knees. I think you Kawhi that thing and have him play 50 to 58 games a year and just load manage it, and that's just how it's going to have to be. Get the 3, 2, 3, 4 seed and try to win in the playoffs. Because I bring this all back to say I don't think we're going to hit on the superstar. So if we can stay healthy, I think the Mavericks can go over that 2.5 over under and win 3 championships with quality elite role player play. I think they can be a 2-star, a superstar, and a star with a bunch of quality role players in a 7-man, 8-man rotation and win a lot of championships.
I'll tell you this. The one thing I'll push back on, and we'll move on to the other series because I want to talk about them.
Oh, I got to hear Josh's take here. Josh is ready to just unload.
What I'll say is this. I think that just because they couldn't attract some free agents in the end of Dirk's career, towards the end of twilight of Dirk's career, doesn't
totally
mean
different.
Be able to do it going forward. I think that this kind of experience and what we're seeing while they're playing the Clippers right now puts Luka on display for guys to be like, I gotta go play with this guy. I gotta go. Like,
it's a top 3 situation, and it's a middle of the pack city. It's not a great city. It's not an awful city for NBA.
Right.
So I think it's a great, attractive option.
Look at what just happened with the Lakers, where you had a bunch of dudes who, granted, and I mean, still happening, I should say, but a bunch of dudes who were kind of like former superstar-ish, precipice kind of guys.
Don Nelson's a better GM than LeBron James. I'm positive of that.
Sure. And
LeBron should not be building his rosters.
But you're looking at LeBron and Anthony Davis and being like, this is my best chance to go win a ring somewhere. And if you can present that option of and saying like, this is, someone like Patrick Beverly, who's going to be in the twilight of his career, like just names like that would sign for less money just to come and be part of what's going on. That's where you're getting your biggest return on this thing. And it may not matter because you have two superstars anyway, theoretically.
Dallas did with one superstar and had elite role player play, and they won a championship. So I trust Cuban and Nelson to figure that out. And, I think the Lakers, we'll get to in a second, but that's a 1-2 punch. That's a 2-star team, not a 3-star team like we've seen a lot in this last decade. And to me, their floor is low. Like the Clippers' floor is higher if Paul George doesn't shoot 29%. But when the Lakers are on, they look like the most unbeatable team to me. They look tougher than Milwaukee or the Clippers when they're clicking on all cylinders. And I think that's where I think the Mavs can be, because, dude, KP's pick and pop or pick and roll, or when did you see him cut to the lane the other day and dunk? It's like, fuck, dude, that dude's 7'3". It's intense. Josh, I have this feeling you're under 2.5. You might be over 1.5 though. Like, where are you at there?
I don't know. I think that I think 2.5 is probably good. It depends on what happens with Giannis and where he goes and where he teams up with. I do lean more towards Justin's take in regards to they couldn't attract people to that place in the twilight of Dirk's career. And if we look at it, over the last 5 years or so, we haven't seen superstars go to a big market just to go to a big market. What we've seen is superstars text their buddies and talk to them, and then two of them go to a team together, whether that's a big market or not. I would argue that
a big market every time, though.
Yeah. I would argue that Brooklyn's not even a big market. But
if it was a city, it would be the third largest city in the United States. It has more people in it than Chicago.
Okay, then I guess I'd be wrong. They don't seem like one of those marquees like Miami, LA. The Clippers, I would say the Clippers aren't a big market. They're in LA, but they're not a big like market team, if that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe it's branding. But what we've seen more than anything else is players get together and go to a team together. And Luka's there. Like I have a lot more confidence in Luka being able to attract somebody to that team than I do a big market.
He's so infectious, dude. I think people love the way that dude plays. Maybe not Montrezl Harrell, but everybody else really, really likes the way that guy plays.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on Montrezl.
I had to throw that in there. Let's not go down that rabbit hole, please.
But overall, go ahead. Sorry, Josh.
If they pick up Fred VanVleet or another top tier free agent,
I'm not considering VanVleet a top tier free agent. He's a tier 2, like he's a third option, but it's not Giannis or Bradley Beal. You could sell me on that. And see, I think you guys are speaking logically as like basketball heads, right? I'm thinking from like a PTSD Mavs fan. Like, I want to protect myself from thinking we're going to get a top 20 player. So now I basically laid it out where I'm like, hey, if we sign, and this is actually, we could sign these 3 guys this year. Think about how much better this team would make us. And this is equivalent to a max deal for what these guys are asking. It's about 30 to 35 mil for the 3. We could sign Dragic, Danny Green, and Jeremy Grant this year, who are all available and non-restricted.
Dragic is super underrated. Actually, Jeremy Grant's the best out of that group,
and he helps the Mavs a lot. But Dragic is just your 6th man off the bench to be your instant offense off the bench. He's your Barea on steroids, right? And we need more white European guys. We just don't have enough yet.
Not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. I had a great conspiracy theory earlier. I don't want to get into this. We'll save this for another show. Actually, I'm going to keep it to myself for now.
Okay.
I'll talk about it later.
So I think Clippers roll this series the rest of the way, and I think they stampede Utah or Denver, which let's talk about that real quick. Denver's been probably the least impressive team in the postseason that I had expectations for. I'm not going to throw, the Nets into that conversation. I had a lot of expectations for this Denver team. I think I've been probably the lowest on them on this podcast in terms of them being just a regular season team and not a team that can perform in the postseason. And they're just showing me that again. And that's why I hesitate to say Jokic is a top 8 or top 10 guy. And Jamal Murray's dropping 50 bombs, and they're down 3-2 to a depleted Utah team. If Utah had Bogdanovich, they would win this series. Conley hasn't played every game. And let's just say it. I'll tell you, Donovan Mitchell's been the best player on the floor, not Nikola Jokic. And Donovan Mitchell has shown to me, I think Donovan Mitchell is a top, for sure, 20 guy. He might be a top 15 player right now.
I want to see a season of this. If I see a season of this Donovan Mitchell, then I might even put him top 10. But one playoff series is a little early for me. But I feel you. I don't hate the take. It's just a little early for me.
He's top 20 for me going into the series.
That's fair.
Okay.
So this just elevates it because and I think I maybe am more like this than either of us. I think Justin's like this too. Is like regular season does not matter nearly as much to me as playoffs, and like that's why I'm down on Jokic. Like I see things in Donovan Mitchell that is there's no fear in that dude, and he just makes crucial plays when he needs to, and guys like Jokic, guys like CJ McCollum, I noticed this with. Embiid, certainly, they just shit the bed in crucial moments of playoff games, and it happens kind of fast, and you don't think about it, and you go back and watch the tape, you're like, God, that was terrible with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left of a tied game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Jokic kind of gives that vibe to me almost like Embiid does, where it's maybe a heart issue here as far as just not giving a shit. I mean, the fluctuation.
His conditioning is equally as bad, I think.
So bad, dude. And like that.
Well, he's lost a little weight, so it's been better, but he's been less effective. Like you're seeing Gobert really Gobert might be the best matchup for Jokic in the league.
For sure. All right.
I think Utah's going to win the series, though. I'll say that. They're up 3-2. I don't think Denver has the capability of beating them 2 games in a row. I'm starting to question Malone's coaching a bit. I've watched Utah go on 10-0 runs, like no timeout, and it's just like clear on body language. You need to stop the ball here.
Didn't they just extend him too? I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah, I actually really like Malone, but he hasn't done what?
Well, the league just extends you when you get bounced in the first round.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Nate McMillan, Billy Donovan, Mike Malone. Hey, great regular seasons. Sell tickets, get your ass beat on national television in the first round. We'll pay you a bunch of money. That's what I'm seeing. That's like the constant theme in the NBA, and it drives me nuts.
Yep. Agreed. Do we just have the Lakers series left?
Yep.
I mean,
instant panic after game 1 for me. Straight up, instant panic.
Oh, yeah. Everybody was kind of like that, but I mean, I didn't really think there was any reason to panic. I mean, come on.
I also wanted KCP to be removed from the team.
He
was the only one not scared to shoot. He was 0 for 9, but everybody else was playing hot potato and hesitating and shooting and passing it to their dudes were catching, specifically Green and Caruso kept catching open shots where LeBron hits him in the pocket. You're an NBA player. You catch it in stride, you shoot when you're a guard. You don't pass it and you give up a good shot because you're scared if you're going to make it. At least KCP thinks he's going to make it, even though we know he's not. But the shooting has been a lot better. AD's obviously been a dog the last 3 games. Triple-double in every game, crazy percentages. There's not really a good matchup in the West for him. Maybe Gobert, but there's just not a good matchup in the West for him. Like Giannis is the best matchup in the league for him, and the Clippers are going to struggle with him. Whoever plays them, they're going to struggle. I mean, obviously, if Houston gets through this, they're going to struggle. OKC gets through it. Steven Adams can't move his feet out 17, 18 feet from the basket, so it's a problem.
Nurkic had the best chance of guarding AD in the entire
Nurkic
West.
is a good one. Yeah, I like that.
He made AD uncomfortable in that first game. It's exactly what we talked about in the playoff series, in that I said AD cannot motivate himself. He has to have somebody or take a bad game or have critics motivate him. Dude, LeBron motivates himself every single time on the floor. Giannis motivates himself every single time on the court. Luka does. And it's the difference between an elite mindset and I'm a superstar that has all the talent in the world, right, but I'm not making it past the second round, even though I've got Drew Holiday on my team.
So wildly.
That's bad. I've continuously said AD has to be the best player on this team for them to win a championship. That doesn't mean LeBron doesn't have to be a top 5 player in the world. He does, but AD needs to be 1 or 2. Like LeBron, you can't ask a guy that's played 55,000 miles to be the best player on your team night in and night out. What you can ask LeBron to be is the
backbone of your team. And
I would say he's been the best leader. Like that's what you need to ask him to do. I don't know if he's played better than AD overall. Because he had the 10-point game. Granted, he hardly played any. Dude, when he was pulling up last night as for the FU 35-footers, like when LeBron James is feeling himself and hitting 28 to 30-footers, like it's over, dude. You're not going to beat that team.
Yeah.
You're lighting the Red Auerbach cigar. Like it's over. Easily.
Yeah. He is leading the playoffs in assists right now.
Oh yeah, I mean he set an NBA record in the first game they lost. Like that blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
And I'm actually at a point. The LeBron backlash would make me so just upset. Like I would sweat, I would get angry, I'd be like, fuck everyone that doesn't like LeBron. And then if you come at me that day with a bad LeBron take, I'm just gonna like say something really personal to hurt you. I'm at a point where it's super fucking funny to me now because like so many headlines of like LeBron James sets NBA record for assists in a game, just can't get it done though. And it's like, how about the three next best players went 10 for 42 from the field? Are we going to talk about that?
Yeah, 1-1-1 slash line from a player.
Right.
What are we talking about here?
I'll say a big takeaway here. I know he has it sometimes, but I'm starting to see it in playoff games, which is when it matters. Kuz is a legit NBA scorer. Like that dude's a bucket getter, and he can be their third option. When he's an 18 to 20 point third option for them, they're very scary.
Yeah, he is far and away the best third option, mostly because Danny Green has played so horribly. KCP is averaging more points than Danny Green, and Danny Green is currently shooting
1 point in the first game too. So Jesus Christ,
That's
yeah,
tough.
dude. He's just not getting it done. Shooting 33% from the free throw line. Danny Green is. This is a guy that should be averaging 90% from the free throw line. It's horrendous. LeBron is currently averaging 25, 10, and 10.
Yep.
I
That's
expect
crazy.
those numbers to stay around that.
Yeah, I do too. AD is averaging 26, 9.5, and 4.3. The big thing for AD is
Field goal
1.5
percentage.
steals and 2 blocks a game. That's 5 possessions right there. 4
Yep.
possessions. That's a big deal. LeBron's averaging 1.3 steals. Overall, dude, LeBron's shooting 55 and 42 from the 3-point line, dude. That's crazy. 70%. He has never been able to put it together on the free throw line for some.
No, he's
whatever
still going to
reason.
miss fourth quarter free throws. You know who else does that? Luka. Luka and his game have a lot in common. It just happens with those strong athletic forwards. They do so much. They're so fucking winded at the end of games because they're doing everything for their team. Him and LeBron touch the ball 70 times a game.
Dude, Luka might be the worst 3-point shooter I've ever been around that feels like an elite 3-point shooter.
Yeah, he's like a 31% 3-point shooter.
Yeah, he's like low
He's a
30s, and he's
shooter.
It's like perpetually.
But he's the ones that fucking matter, dude.
I know. Every time you like it, I'm like, that's in.
But he takes the hardest 3-pointers too. It's not like none of his are catch and shoots. They're all ridiculous, unathletic step backs that he looks awkward to get space. We didn't talk about OKC Houston, so that's 2-2. I think that's a really close series. I still had Houston winning in 6. I actually still think they win in 6. I think they figure this out. I'm not concerned. And I think Houston, when they get hot, can really challenge a lot of teams, and that can happen at any given night. If they play the Lakers, it'll be interesting, though, because the Lakers, especially if they run out that Dwight Howard AD front court, and then the Houston's just doing that small ball. I mean, that's the two antithesis of styles in the NBA right now, where the Lakers are playing a much more classic version. I'm intrigued by that, so I hope Houston gets by because I want to see that matchup, and I want to see Harden go against AD and LeBron. Like, I'm in on a series with 3 of the 6 best players.
That'll be fun for sure. All right, well, we're gonna wrap things up. Great catching up with you guys. Basketball has been a blast so far.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna be back here, and we're gonna try to do these a little bit more often now that I'm back, and we can kind of get a little more steady roll on these, and we know a little bit more throughout the playoffs. But yeah, we'll be back here in just a few days, and we'll see how everything ends up, and hopefully into the first few games of the next series. Fellas,
Sounds good, man. Looking forward to it. Glad you're back.
Yep. Later, fellas.
See you guys.
Later.